Welcome back, or if you're new here, my name's Destiny, and I'm here today with my second attempt at the mid-year freakout tag. I originally filmed this in May and kept planning on putting it up in June, and every time I went to edit it, I just didn't like how it turned out, so we're trying it again, and some of my answers have changed anyways. So I know I'm a little bit late in posting this, but hopefully some of you are still interested in my answers to this tag. Before I get into the questions though, I thought it might be fun to add in some quick stats about my reading so far this year. In the first 6 months of 2020, I read 117 books and just about 26,000 pages. That averages out to a little over 200 pages per book. I'm saying this because I know a lot of people get really down about their reading numbers being lower than other people's numbers at this point in the year, and especially this year I have a lot of friends who are really struggling to read lately, and I just want to say, first of all, even if you only read like half a book the entire year, you're still valid. You still did a great job, and you should be proud of yourself because the world is on fire, and that's it. But second, I wanted to point out how low that average page count is, because I see a lot of people who will like see my numbers on Goodreads and they're like, how have you already read so much? Look, the truth is I have been living off of novellas and graphic novels and manga this year. I don't know what I would do without them. So, you know, don't be ashamed of reading those short books. Anyways, I thought about adding in some more in-depth stats, but honestly, I just didn't feel up to it. But I definitely am planning on my end of year wrap up having a really big like section of stats. And I was also considering adding just a few quick stats to my monthly wrap ups at the end of every month. So let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in, or should I just wait until the end of year wrap up? Just let me know. But moving on, let's get to the questions. And the first question is, what is the best book that you've read in 2020? This was a really tough question for me to answer because I've been blessed to have a lot of really good reads this year. But honestly, my initial reaction was Come Tumbling Down by Shauna Maguire, so I had to go with this. It was so good. It's definitely a new all-time favorite, and honestly I've gushed about it enough on this channel, so I won't keep going on about it right now. Next is the best sequel that you've read so far this year, and honestly my initial reaction was also Come Tumbling Down, but I'm trying really hard not to reuse books for these answers, so I'm gonna go with Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is honestly tied with Come Tumbling Down for how much I adored it as a sequel. It was so good. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to? And this one is one that I'm actually a little bit ashamed that I haven't read it yet, because I was lucky enough to get an ARC of this pretty early before it released, and I love this author, so, you know, by all reasoning, I should have read this by now. It's the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Every single month, I swear that I'm gonna pick it up this month, and I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will soon, and I'm sure I'm going to love it when I do. It just hasn't happened yet. The next question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? This is another one that I have an ARC of, and I should have read by now, and I don't know why I haven't, and it's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Victoria is one of my favorite authors of all time. I know I'm gonna love this. I don't know why I haven't read it yet, but I do actually have every intention of starting this before the month is out, so hold me to that, please. Question number 5 is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? And this one was really easy, sadly. And that is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kimmerer. I loved A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and I had such high hopes for the sequel, and it did not work for me at all. I actually think one of my first videos on this channel involved a pretty lengthy rant about that book. But basically, I didn't like the direction that the plot took, and I really did not like what she did with all of the character development that had built up for Ren in the first book. So it just did not work for me at all. Number 6 is your biggest surprise. I really wanted to go with a happy surprise for this, but honestly my biggest surprise was a negative one, and that was Captive by Jex Lane. This has been recommended to me by so many people. There were so many people who were like, this is right up your alley. It's this really dark, twisted paranormal romance. You're gonna love this. And I hated almost literally everything about this book. I thought it was super problematic. The writing was incredibly cringeworthy at times. I did not like the romance at all. I didn't enjoy the characters. I could go on for a really long time about why this book was the biggest negative surprise for me this year. On a happier note, 7 is a favorite new author, either debut or new to you, and I'm going with Leah Johnson, the author of You Should See Me in a Crown. I loved it so much. Okay, number 8 is a newest fictional crush. I don't really feel like I pick fictional crushes that often. Like, I tend to have the same few that I hold on to for a very long time. Number 9 is your newest favorite fictional character. This is not actually a fictional character that I met this year, but is one that became a favorite this year. And that is Paige Mahoney from the Bone Season series. I had read the first book a couple of years ago and I liked her, but she wasn't like favorite character level, you know? But I just finished the second book in the series and I'm reading the third book right now, and I think she's probably made my favorite characters of all time list. She is so strong and so clever, and the lengths that she will go to protect people even if they haven't done anything to necessarily deserve or warrant her caring about them, absolutely incredible. Number 10 is a book that made you cry, and for this I'm going to go with Cole McCate's new romance novel, Just Like That. The love interest in this book is actually a widower, and even though his wife has passed away a long time ago, he has a Buddhist shrine in his home for her, and he has a ritual that he does in remembrance of her at one point in the story that made me cry so hard. I literally had to go to the bathroom and compose myself because my spouse was asleep and I was worried I was going to wake them up. I was crying so hard. It was so sweet and so sad, and I know it probably sounds weird to think like a romance novel that features the love interest actually like having this huge grief scene over their lost loved one, but it works really well. It's just who Fox is, and it works for his character. Number 11 is a book that made you happy, and I feel like I picked kind of an odd one for this. I'm going with The Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is his upcoming horror novella from Tor.com. I think it comes out in September maybe, and I absolutely adored it. I won't spoil anything, but there is kind of a hidden plot element that is revealed pretty early on. But when it is revealed, it kind of changes the way the entire story is being delivered. And don't worry, I am being vague enough. This is not a spoiler at all. But the way that it changed the story for me made it so disturbingly entertaining. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was just really, really enjoyable. If you tend to like kind of twisted, weird horror, then you probably know what I mean, and you will probably enjoy this novella. Number 12 is the most beautiful book that you've hauled so far this year. This was kind of a hard one because I am such a sucker for pretty covers, and I tend to get a lot of books that have really lovely covers, even if they're just like on my Kindle, you know, as a pretty little picture. Like, I really am such a sucker for pretty covers. So I was looking at my shelf and I decided to just go with kind of an easy pick, and that is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I am such a sucker for this blood red and gold color combo anyways. This is just a color combo that I'm very fond of. I tend to really like blood red with any kind of metallic colors, and then also I just think the artwork is really pretty. Okay, and then the final question is, what is a book that you need to read before the end of the year? And honestly, I have a list a mile long for this, but since I've pretty much abandoned my 2020 TBR, I decided to pick a couple of books off that I do still really want to get to. Kingdom of Ash, Alice, and The Shadow of What Was Lost, which I am currently reading, but I've been working on this for a really long time, so I'm not even sure if it counts as a current read anymore, but I will finish it someday. Okay, and that's it. Those were my mid-year freakout tag answers. I really can't believe it took me so long to refilm this, but it is what it is. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you haven't done this tag yet either, consider yourself officially tagged. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Come say hi to me in the comments. Come tell me what's one book that you want to read before the year ends or something like that. And don't forget to click like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. But thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Bye!